That was normal.
He craps his pants.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean he's.
When you have a kid, you know exactly what
Yes.
he just shit his pants, like literally. You
Yep.
gotta check the diaper.
Biden administration, Jill.
Excuse me,
yeah.
Dr. Jill.
Dr. Jill, you're right. Dr. Jill Biden. They're not even going to allow contraceptives. They're going to force people to, birth children all over this planet. We're going Handmaid's Tale. All the things that they do. Hey, listen, you guys are going to be slaves, and you guys are going to be forever. Just taking care of the stuff that I want you to take care of. You're going to be avatars, living in some room, hooked up to computers, and you'll own nothing, be happy, all that stuff that you hear from the WEF, and a friend of Jill Biden's, and Dr. Jill Biden. So sorry.
Maybe guys that 6'4" that want to get into the Secret Service, maybe they should say that they feel like women, and they're going to get hired.
Yeah, they identify as a woman. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, here's what, and you're tripping all over yourself. Now you're like, whatever, F you, go away, navigating through, sleeping with the right people. She's talented operative that way.
She's great at laughing.
I don't think our founding fathers could have identified how stupid we've become.
Okay, so I don't know whether you heard it or not, but we got the breaking news. Our friend AJ Hurley just reported. He says that Ellen Page takes less testosterone than you do. Any comments on that?
Is that how we're starting?
Yes, we do.
Well, that's fair. I gave him a bad time last time. There's a T-shirt that I want to buy that I'm going to wear around him that I saw on Instagram that said, I'd like to... something along the lines of, I'm sorry to hear about the passing of your guard. It's a jiu-jitsu shirt, and I thought that's a clever one. So I'm gonna buy that just to wear it around AJ, troll him a little.
So did you see the latest tweet of President Biden?
No. What do we get now?
Almost 4 hours ago, a little bit more. So tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I will address the nation from the Oval Office on what lies ahead and how I will finish the job for the American people. So he is alive.
He is alive, yeah. You know what? I trolled people, and look, I was privy to some, information that now has been widely reported that he had a medical emergency, serious medical emergency in Vegas. So much so that they, closed down roads to get the motorcade to the hospital for him, and then they made a decision to fly him, fast and furious across the country to get treatment, so fast that the plane shook, and they made it in something like 3 hours and 58 minutes, which is probably like 2/3 the time that it would normally take to fly across the country. So they had the afterburners going on Air Force One. So he had a major medical emergency, and so I asked in the tweet that I sent out, which went semi-viral, hey, are we going to hear an announcement that he's dead by the end of the week? So something is serious going on. There's also some other credible reports that he's been under some kind of hospice care. So there was a video of him that just got released this morning. And here we are on what is it, Tuesday the 23rd. There was a video of him, boarding Air Force One and saluting and, looking old and decrepit, not measurably different than what he has been, over the last several months. But what we witnessed, and I hit at the bottom of my tweet, what we witnessed has been a coup. Now, the left, who never cares about definitions until we use particular words, and then they're like, that's not what a coup means, it's a violent overthrow. Well, it can also be a soft coup, behind the scenes, where you have a political movement against political powers in order to displace them. That's what we've had here with Biden. His debate performance was so pathetic. It was so bad that they could not hide the fact that he has been in cognitive decline, like all of us have been saying, and we've been saying it
for months now.
We've been saying it for a couple of years, that he is not fit for office. I mean, he was barely able to do his presidential run the first time around. I remember he was in the basement. He had kind of sundowner syndrome, to where he between 10 a.m. and 3, if he was in those hours, he could be all right. Anything outside of that, they're like, yeah, he called it a day. He put a lid on the day, I think is what they were saying. Right,
He was
so
always
he's-
on vacation.
Yeah, and contrast that with Trump. I mean, Trump gets, shot in a attempted assassination, and the next day he's golfing, I mean, and he's out on the course ragging on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, right? So, clearly, and we know people, I'm sure you do, that are in their 80s that are incredibly sharp and vibrant still, and then we know people that they're done, they are lost, right? And Biden has been done and lost for a long time, and he was propped up as a puppet in this political regime with the establishment, permanent Washington, and his administration running him like a puppet.
I'm honestly shocked that the left just now they realized that he's unfit, because he was like farting in public, like he farts on public.
Yeah,
that was normal.
He
for them?
craps his pants.
Yeah.
No, I mean he's.
When you have a kid, you know exactly what
Yes.
he just shit his pants, like literally. You
Yep.
gotta check the diaper, and only after the debate, and he was incredible in the debate. He was incredible.
Oh, yeah, they
in
were-
the comparison to him 5 to 6 months ago, when he was just farting and like mumbling. He
Yeah.
was mumble rapping.
Well, they put him on a cocktail of drugs, and they were hoping that would work this last time, and it didn't. Now, that evening, you had all of the paid shills, and there's many accounts that exist online on social media for the express purposes and only purpose of propping up, the Biden administration and saying that Joe Biden is the smartest, most deft human being on the planet. There's never been a greater thinker and a more strategic man that has ever existed
Him
walking
and
the face of the earth.
Socrates.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Biden is an amazing right, and they're just meant to prop him up. So the night of the debate, they're like, he cleaned Donald Trump's clock. Oh my gosh, I've never seen a more astute performance from a debater on the planet. This guy was amazing. Wow, he just gave to him, and Trump did nothing but lie, and Biden spoke the truth, and all that sort of stuff. Meanwhile, CNN, even, who hosted it, all of the news outlets, everybody was like, wow, that was a disaster. And then President Obama comes out and says, well, one bad night, right. But everybody universally knew the jig was up. You couldn't hide it any longer. This guy's cognitive decline was so bad that he just wasn't there. I mean, within the first minute of the debate, his first response, devolved into some incoherent babbling. First response to a question. So, that's what we saw. They couldn't hide it any longer. They went, uh-oh. The whole world acknowledged that he was gone. What are we going to do now? And then we see what they did.
So let's take to the Constitution. So if a sitting president steps down, then the VP comes up, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Steps down, dies, whatever. If he's declared through the 25th Amendment to be, incapable of fulfilling the duties of the office, which that's complicated because the cabinet and other people within the administration have to acknowledge that. But if he gets 25th Amendmented out, dies.
Unfit.
Whatever is unfit, then yes, Kamala Harris becomes the president.
Right away.
Right away. Yeah.
So he declared that he's not running again. So it means that he's going to stay up till January?
So what he has said is, look,
allegedly
I am bowing out of the race as your nominee for president for this next term, but I'm going to fulfill the rest of my duties till the end of the administration. I don't believe that's going to happen. What they needed was time, and here's why I thought, between the medical emergency and then his sudden disappearance and blaming it on COVID, it wasn't COVID. I mean, it was something went wrong, because they can deal with COVID, and COVID's more of a slow decline, but something went wrong quickly.
And he's got 7 shots.
Yeah. So something went bad. They went into a panic, right? Then behind the scenes, remember, this is Game of Thrones, and people think that somehow, we're more sophisticated than through all of history. We just have a veneer of that. But all of the power players behind the scenes had to then go into crisis mode and started negotiating. So this is the the staffers. There's really three distinct groups, right, or factions within our government right now. You have the Biden administration, Jill.
Excuse me? Dr. Jill.
Dr. Jill, you're right. Dr. Jill Biden. You have the chief of staff, Ron Klain. You have, all of these people that are pulling the strings, the people that were functionally running everything for Biden, right? Then you have the deep state, permanent Washington, the people that are there, the three-letter agencies, the people that assassinate presidents and things like that. You've got all of them. So the deep state, permanent Washington. Then you have and I'm sorry, I'm going to say four really. Then you have like the old Obama folks, right? The holdouts, the people that really are very, very powerful in managing things. Many of them are still in the administration. And then you have Kamala Harris's people. On top of that, you have the globalist power players, the people that are financing these campaigns, the people that are moving us down this path of this one world government type, grouping. You have all of them. So they all behind the scenes have to negotiate, figure this stuff out. So they couldn't just have him die. So if he did die, right, and maybe he still is dead, who knows? It's the end of the week. It's not here yet. They were unprepared for something catastrophic and quick like that because they don't have all their ducks in a row. They need to consolidate behind someone. It appears within the last 24 hours that it's going to be Kamala Harris. They're going to double down on her. And she's not an dangerous opponent. So she is a dangerous threat. She narrows the race. Her polling is going to be a little bit better right now, at least temporarily, than Joe Biden's because of the cognitive decline thing. That takes that off the table. She's an evil communist, but and she's more left than Joe Biden ever was. So she's a avowed super lefty communist.
I can't hear about her and not to laugh.
Well, she's incredibly unlikable. I mean, Kamala Harris might be the least likable person on the planet, just naturally. She's very off-putting. I said one time it's like, putting your hand in a bag moist. And feeling something moist. She's just like everything about her rubs people a little bit raw. She says, silly things, word salad, like rocks are falling out of her head. She doesn't know what word she's going to use next. She just piles words on top of one another. She has done a brilliant job failing upward. And she's not a particularly strong candidate, but you can't underestimate the machine. You can't underestimate the Democrats. It really doesn't matter, who they run to a certain extent. They've got this machine. They've got this thing going. They're all bad. They're all evil. Their aims are very specific as to what they'd like to see in this country. Our battle is universal, and our battle is still the same. This is a battle for our sovereignty. Okay, the people who are running the Democrat Party or the globalists or the oligarchs, all of them want to make all of the decisions for themselves. They want to consolidate their power. They want to centralize their power. We are running against people who believe in central authority. And what I believe in and what I believe is the Christian model is for us to be sovereign, for us to have sovereign nations, for us to be individuals, for us to have as much power spread out amongst as many peoples as possible. That's what our founding fathers were after. That's what they believed would lead to the most happiness and freedom on the earth, the most liberty, which is a God principle. And that is what the fight is. It doesn't matter who they run.
So remind me of 2020 Democratic primaries. How many votes did she get?
Oh, she didn't even register on the board. I mean, less than 1%. She was, again, she's a very unlikable candidate. She is a DEI hire, which I'm told today is the new N-word. If you call somebody, part of the DEI push,
that's an insult.
That is. Oh, that's a racist comment, is what we're being told. Now, forget the fact that we just spent the last 2 weeks calling the director of the Secret Service, Cheatle, a DEI hire, which she was. No, DEI is really an evil promoting of people without it being based on merit. And it's going to be on some immutable characteristic under the guise of, we have to be, kind and give people chances. Well, it has slowly eroded the strength of our country, and they continue to try to double down on it.
So at one time she's Native American, at the other time she's black.
Well, no, she Indian of actual Indian descent. Yeah, so yes. East Indian. So she has, and in 2016 when she ran on the idea that she was Indian. Now all of a sudden she's black. But her I believe it was her father was Jamaican, her mother was Indian. I could have that wrong, but yeah, they now are making it that this is this black woman of color.
So. If we take a look into the U.S. Constitution, they have to arrange democratic primaries right now, right? If Biden steps down, Kamala cannot run because no one voted for her.
Yeah, so number one, they'll break all of their own rules. Okay, so what we're talking about within the there are things that the DNC governs that aren't laws, right? Mm-hmm. Some things have to do with campaign finance laws. Like for instance, there's a $200 million war chest that can only go to, and I'm told that we cannot say Kamala, we have to say Kamala. Like
no
camel,
way.
Kamala. But there's only this PAC money that can go to her. So it gets to be unable to be spent according to campaign finance law if we pick someone else in the primary. She has already secured enough delegates behind the scenes that they've pledged their vote. So the parties, the superdelegates, remember when they ran Bernie Sanders out of town?
Yes.
Bernie Sanders was the apparent presumptive nominee. He had so much energy behind him. This is when the Democrat Party showed its true colors, that they don't really care about democracy. Remember, every day when they say our democracy, that is code for it really being their thing. And it's whatever they decide, the powers that be. It's not a democracy. It's not even our democracy. It is their thing. This thing of ours, it's like the mob. So they decide who they want, and they did that with Hillary, and all of a sudden people were like, wait, what just happened? And they had all these super delegates and all these people within their own rule set could automatically just forget what you guys want, here's what we're going to do, and they put Hillary Clinton in. And so they can do they don't operate on the same paradigm that we do. They do what they want. They will break rules. There are states that it is too late, according to their own laws, for them to have anybody but Joe Biden on. Watch each one of those states write up some emergency legislation or do something to put Kamala on the ballot, or whomever else they ultimately decide. But she has enough delegates. She's already gotten commitments. Within the last 24 hours, she raised something like $85 million extra dollars. So they are quickly consolidating behind her. It could go weird. We are in the craziest time of this Game of Thrones that I've ever seen.
Do you think Putin is afraid, is terrorized by her being the president?
Oh, she's so intimidating. Putin must be shaking in his boots. All of the world's enemies are concerned about Kamala Harris. No, yeah, of course not. Nobody considers her a threat, because remember, we're talking about a global conspiracy to get who they want in office. The global conspiracy was against Trump. They do not want Trump, and they have made that apparent from all that they did with fourth and fifth generation warfare against Trump. It was on this program, you ran the clip the other day, that I said that they've done that, where they've assassinated his character, gone after him in every conceivable means, right? Then none of it worked. The only thing left that they had was to try to take him out and kill him.
So let me get this straight. So if I run my own party, let's say third party, right? I get my candidate, then I choose a VP. So my candidate is kind of a likable, but the VP is a demon, the devil himself. My candidate gets elected, Then he, for instance, says, I'm not capable of running. I step down. So the VP, my VP, the demon, the devil that I chose, is running in office for 4 years.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And no one voted for that demon and devil.
No, remember, nobody liked this particular demon. Nobody liked Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, she is dangerous because of the Democrat Party behind her and what they can do and the money that they can bring. And, but it doesn't almost matter who they run. They are a dangerous entity in and of themselves.
But of all the Democrats, they have this. This is their best option.
Who?
That's crazy.
Again, we're talking about DEI hires, was expressly picked because of the color of her skin. And Joe Biden came out and said, "Yeah, I'm gonna pick a woman of color." And it's going to be Kamala Harris, who called him a racist.
The beef between them in 2020 was.
It was like the knives were out.
They hated each other.
Oh, and she said such brutal things, which many of them were exactly true. I mean, he's got a history of racism that's pretty clear. He was a pretty vile guy for many years, and she was here's who he is, and he decided that's what I need on my ticket.
So you being as American, explain me two things. First of all, how to explain to my fellow Europeans, to my fellow Lithuanians, what just Hulk Hogan did. Our mind can't comprehend this. Like this, at the RNC, on the stage for the candidate of the president, we can't understand that. We can't fathom that.
Okay, explain that to me. You mean you can't fathom it from a showmanship standpoint?
Yes,
just it's just so uncouth?
Yes, we have to be dressed like that with the tie. Everything is going to have to be said like everything is written down 100%. Then this guy, Trumpmania, and everyone's yay!
Yeah, well, I mean, he's tapping into the nostalgia that people have for Hulk Hogan, right? And most of the people that are voting right now, I mean, I grew up on Hulk Hogan, right? So, so we're all looking at that, and that's what they're trying to tap into. I'm saddened by the lack of decorum. I'm saddened by what's happened just in our culture at large. We were talking about a few minutes ago being here in town where I started my business career and seeing that, back in the day we had, our shoes were shined, we were wearing ties and business suits, and if you were a serious man of business, that's what you did, right? And if you were serious in politics, you looked like it, you dressed for the occasion, there was a certain decorum and rules, which has devolved over time.
Those old school bigots, sexists, those guys.
The old white men.
Yeah.
No, but we've genuinely and generally become very casual, and we think very casual, and we don't appreciate or honor the positions of office. I mean, all of that across the board has really just fallen by the wayside.
And the second thing is, please explain me, how could you vote 2 times for 2 terms for an actor in 1980s? How can you possibly think of The Rock running for president or Kamala Harris so she was a politician, right? Michelle running for the Oval Office? How is it possible?
Yeah, but she was married to a president. So that means that she's got to be qualified. She's got to know how to run the biggest, most powerful government on the planet Earth. I mean, it's just natural. She's next to the guy. So therefore, all of that must have just been absorbed. Yeah. No, I mean, we love celebrity. We love style over substance. I mean, style over substance has become America. Unfortunately, that has crept into everything. That's who we are now. We don't. But I mean, you think about it. Nobody thinks, nobody reads anymore, nobody studies, nobody understands the issues. We lost what would have been classical education. We aren't educated like we used to be. So people can't think. So it's very easy for them to just get caught up in cult of personality, get caught up in celebrity, get excited about somebody that they recognize. And people imagine, and this is the silliest thing on the planet, people imagine that popularity means competence, right?
Yes.
Okay, so The Rock, I've worked out with him before. He used to come to a local gym when he lived out here, and I did some sets with him before and liked him. He was a very nice, affable guy, charismatic, wonderful dude. Right?
Early 2000s.
Yeah. Really, neat. I mean, hey, cool, awesome dude, right? Nice guy. That doesn't mean that he is an executive. And people don't understand what it means to be an executive and what it means to be a leader in that capacity. It's not just who you choose around you, but that does make a big difference. But for you to be able to govern, to be able to lead, to be able to make decisions at that highest of levels in order to run an enterprise, to be a leader in a small business is a big deal. Now you're talking about something with a complexity that is mind-boggling to the average human being. It's certainly mind-boggling to some celebrity. So just because you're Oprah Winfrey and you've been very successful and you've become a billionaire, or you're The Rock and you're very successful as an actor and become a very, very wealthy man as well, does not mean that you have the skills of being able to execute or govern.
And we've seen what happens to the presidents. 2008 Obama, handsome young fella, right?
Yeah.
Only after 8 years. Look at his hair, look at his face, the stress that he experienced.
Incredibly stressful. The only one that seemed to have gotten better was Donald Trump.
Better and better.
But part of that is so there's very stress-resilient personalities, okay? For all of his problems and issues and things that you see, he's a very stress-resistant personality. I mean, what they have brought against him and the fact that he has been able to physically continue to thrive, and he's not the healthiest looking guy on the planet, he's not the fittest guy on the planet, he doesn't have the best diet in the world and all that stuff, but it's like he eats stress and it fuels him. I mean, he's been pretty incredible in that regard. He's unusual. That is the sign of someone that can handle complexities and handle a leadership position like that. Barack Obama was not any kind of stalwart, experienced executive. Hell of a politician, right?
Yes.
So a community organizer, he was able to do a lot in that role that was very effective for evil. And I think he set us back more than anyone in terms of creating more divisiveness than anyone on this planet. I mean, that's what he did from day one in office. I mean, most people thought that he'd be this great uniter. Most people were supportive of the idea of having a black president. Generally, we were moved beyond the idea of racism even in that regard. I remember all of the celebratory magazine articles and, oh, finally America has achieved the first black president. Oh, wow, wonderful. Again, I grew up in an era where we thought racism was largely dead. I mean, it exists in people's hearts and pockets around the country, and there's people that are unrepentant racists and have that evil in their hearts. But largely, it was kind of done in a public sphere. He brought it back. He created the division.
So I remember talking to my friend, I want to say 2 years ago, and we were talking back in Lithuania about the Obamas, and he was saying, so Barack Obama did so much for the black African Americans, for the black community in the U.S. And I was like, how do you know? Guess what he said?
What?
I read Michelle Obama's book.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, his wife said.
His wife said, okay, yeah. I believe you.
Yeah.
That's true. So basically, Democrats are now in deep shit.
No, I don't think so. So the race is tightening, according to some of the polls, right? The number one thing, there were two things that made it look like, oh, we've lost completely if you're a Democrat. Oh, we lost. We're out. We're done. You had the debate performance. So the jig was up. We saw behind the curtain, the guy's cognitive decline is so terrible. He couldn't string sentences together. He failed miserably in that performance. That was the death pill for them there with his presidential run. Then you had the assassination attempt. That assassination attempt, solidified Trump huge. Got a bunch of people behind Trump that were on the fence. You got a whole bunch of people recognizing that he was the real deal. I mean, standing up, fight. That picture, I mean, that was iconic. He's the biggest personality on the planet. He is.
For sure.
So everything coalesced behind him there, and so they had to shift it. That's what this whole move has been about, is shifting it. They had to do something. So they're going to put the machine behind her. They're going to hope that they can pump her up enough that they can run on the fears of things like Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation. That they're making up a whole bunch of things that thing does not say. They're talking all about they're not even going to allow contraceptives. They're going to force people to birth children all over this planet. We're going Handmaid's Tale. All the things that they do in order to pretend that the right are fascist Nazis, right? And that's why so many people were excited that Donald Trump almost lost his life, was because they believe that he's the second coming of Hitler. They've been being told that for the last 8 years.
But a few people were very upset.
Yeah, I love it. I see it. Yes, the women with penises were very unhappy. Well, it's interesting because the libs of TikTok, Chai Raychek, does a great job of highlighting all of these people who are in government positions, school teachers, staffers in the current administration, saying, too bad the guy's aim wasn't better. If only that shooter hadn't missed. Very lamenting the fact that Donald Trump isn't dead now, which would have resulted in I believe, chaos like we can only imagine. It was going to be pretty extreme. And so, by the act of God, potentially, I don't know, sheer...
100%.
Yeah, it's hard to attribute it just to luck because his head movement at that last second and it clipping his ear was really hard to explain otherwise. But they wanted him to be dead.
Who would you rather see from the Democrats? Kamala, right? Kamala or Hillary?
I think both of them are detestable. I think that they can't do Clinton again. And Clinton, I think, she has passed her time, just period. And she comes with an enormous amount of baggage, the Epstein scandal with her husband, some of those sort of things that were surfacing a lot after her 2016 run. A lot of those things really deadened her, and I think took the wind out of the sails of any kind of resurrection for Clinton. There's continuous jokes even on the other side about them killing people and all that stuff. So it's going to be tough to imagine that they could prop her up. Michelle Obama would truly be scary because she comes with positive feelings that they had towards her husband, and she is virtually scandal-free and unknown, other than her having her own penis. Big Mike. Did you hear that guy call her Big Mike on a newscast accidentally?
Obama was calling her twice Mike. Did you hear that?
No, I did not.
There are clips.
I did not. I don't really believe she's a man. But
she's got incredible back. The muscles of her back. Wow.
Yeah, she's a strong woman.
She does a lot of pullovers.
Shake the change out of your pockets.
Whew.
Yeah.
And I had a guy the week before, Josiah O'Neill, who was a former police officer. He was a special agent, and he was telling me the story of Benghazi. So I've heard the Benghazi story, I want to say, a decade ago.
Yeah.
But only now I realize how horrendous that was.
Oh, it was. I mean, we abandoned people to die, and she was the one that stood in the way of sending operatives in there to save them, and we could have. So she let 13 I believe the number is 13 people die under her watch. There's things like that. There's some tremendous scandals that have come out surrounding Haiti. There's some real credible accusations of actual human trafficking and some occult practices that she was involved in. There's some amazing things that would surface on Hillary Clinton that they're just happy that it floats around there in the conspiracy world and doesn't bubble up again. But they're really true, credible, horrific things that she's done and been a part of, both public and private.
But in the Benghazi story, she could just have sent the squad. That's it. Those lives would have been saved.
Oh yeah.
She just hates her own people.
Well, remember, they also created a fiction surrounding it, as to why there was this dispute. So there was other geopolitical concerns that they were trying to manage at the same time. Remember, everything, when you look through the lens of this globalist cabal of what they want to create on a global scale, how they want to consolidate power, so much more of this stuff makes sense. If you just think it's between the communists and the capitalists and things like that, the people who believe that collectivism would really bring us together and that would be better for the earth, and if we just put things in the right manner, we'd all get along and we'd have plenty to go around, and these evil rich people, if you think that it's not that. It's really, and I've said it many times, and I'll say it again, our battle, right? Communism and socialism is just a sales pitch for the globalists. Because I can't look at the young college students, if I'm a globalist, and tell them that, hey, listen, you guys are going to be slaves, and you guys are going to be forever just taking care of the stuff that I want you to take care of. You're going to be avatars, living in some room, hooked up to computers, and you'll own nothing, be happy, all that stuff that you hear from the WEF, Noah Yuval Harari, and, all those folks, right? That's not as compelling as, hey, we need things to be more equal. We need equity. We need,
justice for all.
Yeah, just all of those sort of things. There's rich people. We need to have them pay their fair share. All of these little things that they do that gin up and get the college kids excited and Antifa pumped up. All the useful idiots get all excited about that stuff. That's the sales pitch. The truth is they want feudalism 2.0. They want us to be slaves. They want us to be their serfs. And that's throughout history. I mean, that's what it always is. That's what it was when you do have communism. You have the people at the top controlling it. You consolidate power amongst this really tiny minority of people, and then everybody else is barely making it barely on subsistence level, and you're in charge. Capitalism, right? Free market. I don't really care for the term capitalism entirely because of what it's kind of become, and it's become synonymous with corruption, and every time people argue against capitalism, they're using examples of corruption. Corruption exists, but the more free your markets are, the less actual corruption exists. The most corruption in capitalism comes from interference by the government, comes from lobbyists, come from people putting in unfair rules that benefit them at the expense of the little guy. That's what you've seen with the small businesses going away and the big businesses consolidating and buying everybody up. So, capitalism, though, or free markets were the only thing that provided the maximum opportunity for the most people.
In regards to communism, I don't know whether you know that or not. So I'm 36, my dad is 59. So he remembers the times back in Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. So back in Soviet Union, if he wanted, I was already have been born. So if he wanted, for instance, in the 90s, early 88, 89, 90, 91, if he wanted to get just tangerines, oranges, bananas, sausages, something like that, mm-hmm. they waited for 3 to 4 hours outside the grocery store for the truck to come by to get a small amount of the products, and they waited for 3 to 4 hours just to get a few tangerines or a few bananas. Yeah. This is what communism was, and this is my father's testimony, and that was late communism.
And who got the tangerines when they wanted them?
the top.
Right. And so that's what really ultimately feudalism kind of is.
Yes.
Is the kings of the society, which could be, the communist apparatchiks, right? And the oligarchs that are behind all of that. Those guys will get whatever they want whenever they want it. They'll be flying on the jets, they'll have the steaks, they'll have whatever they want whenever they want it, and the rest of us won't. And our country and capitalism, the West, was unique in that it provided the ability for us to all have tangerines if we worked hard enough.
So, for instance, in the Soviet Union, the average salary was 150, 170 rubles, right? Mm-hmm. So the new car cost, let's say, 1,000 rubles, mm-hmm. but you can't buy one because all the cars were sold to the top, or they were sent to Africa.
Oh, wow.
So on the second market, the cars were sold much more than that for 1,000. So you got the money, but you don't have anything where to spend those money. They didn't have jeans. That was all American stuff. They didn't have bubble gums. They didn't have shit. They had their money. The whole furniture was like 10 positions. Maybe max five styles of tables. That's mm-hmm. it. Throughout the whole country. Mm-hmm. So everywhere you go to your friends, you'll see the same furniture.
Yeah.
And you had to wait for 2, 3, 6, 8, 12 months for this closet, for instance. That was true communism. And not a lot of people, especially Americans, realize that. They don't know this shit. That was extreme.
Yeah.
You couldn't even buy food.
Yeah, well, and it will go back
yes.
to that. I mean, it's already on a worldwide basis. I mean, if you've been traveling anytime recently, through the wonders of inflation, everything is unbelievably expensive, right? Try to buy a new car right now. The interest rates are so insane. Buy a house, the interest rates are so insane. All of that sort of stuff that's happening now is naturally mashing the middle class, disappearing them, right? Pushing them down to the poor, to the point where, vacations and things like that will be a thing of the past. You can't afford a plane flight, or, you can't afford a couple of days in Las Vegas, without going into wild debt. And, biblical model, and admonition, I should say, against debt is, the debtor will be slave to the lender.
So what do you think is the interest rate in Russia or in Belarus?
I don't know. What is it?
So it's so bad in the US. Now it's 6 to 7%, right?
Right, yeah.
So in Russia, it's minimum 15%.
Yeah.
And that was for decades. In Belarus, it's 20 to 25.
Wow.
So you buy 4 houses in a 30-year period with those kind of interest rates.
Yeah.
20, 25% APR.
Yeah.
And you had 2, 3, 4 max percent even 4 years ago. That's almost free money in comparison to what
was.
those
And by the way, it was artificially low, and it wasn't good for us, right? Because it actually encouraged people to go deeper into what would end up becoming slavery, but you can have responsible rate levels. You can have things in a measure to where it doesn't encourage people to lose their minds. And now the scary thing is happening right now is the buy now, pay later stuff, because that's a whole nother level of slavery and debt right there.
You
and that's happening on everything.
Clothes, supplements.
Go on almost any website now and go to buy something, and you'll have that option. 4 payments, this, that,
$100, but 4 payments. Yeah. If you can't afford right now $100, bro, stay away from it.
Don't be buying stuff. Yeah.
So, all new vehicles sold in the European Union must now be equipped with intelligent speed assistance systems, which can slow a car down if it is exceeding the speed limit. The systems use artificial intelligence, AI, GPS data, and onboard cameras to monitor and control vehicle speed, ensuring compliance with speed limits. What is that?
Slavery. No, I mean, this is exactly what we've been talking about. Central control. Okay, everything, you have to look at everything through that same lens. All of the movements around the country, Thomas Massie has been fighting that here quite publicly, one of the few congressmen on the planet that's not owned by someone, and he's been fighting that very viciously, because that is central control. That is authoritarian control of your life. Tyrannical control of your life is what they're doing at every level right now.
Another article. New cars in France must soon have camera to see if driver is distracted.
Yeah, so a lot of these things, what they do is they take the potential for risk, right?
Oh, yeah.
They take the potential for risk, they take the potential for death, they do all that sort of stuff, and they argue, hey, give us a little bit of freedom, and we're going to give you perceived safety and security. Everything that's how they gain control. Everything is about that. So they'll make the argument that, well, hey, that's great because we've had accidents based on distracted drivers, and so we're going to prevent that. We're not going to just teach people to pay attention and leave it up to them and accept that life includes a measure of tragedy, and that measure of tragedy allows us to have freedom, allows us to have liberty, allows us to make our own decisions. But no, every single thing, they do that.
So, for instance, in Norway, I've been to Norway 2018, I want to say. Once I got there, my fellow Lithuanians told me that lived there for decades, I want to say. They told me, don't speed. Almost 3 to 5 miles speeding, you can end up in jail for 1 or 2 days. No one's speeding there in Norway. That's it. No cameras, nothing. Mm-hmm. Just don't do that. If you got caught, you're gonna do some public work, or you're gonna be in jail for a day, for a 2 or 3. Guess what? I didn't speed back when I was in Norway. Let's talk about congressional hearing. Did you watch the congressional hearing of Cheeto's girl?
Cheatle? Yeah, Director Cheatle. I watched some of it. I saw some clips. I did not watch the whole thing, but I got a good essence of it. And she resigned, so I'm glad to hear that. She resigned early this morning.
Very sad.
Yeah.
Sad day for America.
Again, going back to DEI, she was a DEI hire and a friend of Jill Biden's, and Dr. Jill Biden. So sorry. She is wholly incompetent for that role. She's just been a political operative, somebody that they can use to get what they want, which was a very lackadaisical performance, incompetent performance, malicious performance perhaps, nefarious performance perhaps by the Secret Service. She, in her background, if you look at her resume was not strong enough to be in that position. You could not make that argument, but she was a woman. They had made it a point that they were going to have more women in the Secret Service. Once she came in, she put a goal of having 30% women in Secret Service. For every woman that is on a high-profile detail of any kind like that, a better, more competent man was passed over. And that is the truth. They had to pass over someone that could do the job better than
physically
they could.
Bigger, stronger,
and
taller.
Yeah, and there are exceptional women, and I say this stuff, and you get the shrill harpies screaming that think that they can do the job or just as good. And there are women who are exceptional in many roles, and there are women that can hit all of the same performance metrics and all that stuff, but that is incredibly rare. So you cannot possibly get 30%. It is impossible, right? You can have 1% of women that are capable enough and that can hang with the men in those situations because there are physical exceptions.
Half of them are in the UFC.
Yeah, exactly. But even then, the UFC women are all very small. They're not. You're not talking about someone that can physically protect someone that just from a sheer body size, shielding a man who is 6 foot plus. None of the women that were on that detail that day could do that. And you watched their performance in the moment, the confusion, all that sort of stuff. Indicates that they weren't prepared for the job.
And I feel sad for them.
Well, yeah.
One girl is getting demolished.
Yeah.
The one that
That was, panicking, putting her weapon away, missing the holster, all that. I mean, that showed the stress of the situation. That showed, lack of drilling, muscle memory as to where your holster is, all that sort of stuff. She was out of shape. She wasn't, some svelte athlete. But yeah, I mean, it's sad for them, but we are doing this to women in our culture because we've been lying to women, especially here in the West, for decades now, that you can do all that a man can do and all those sort of things. I can't do all that a woman can do. A woman cannot do all that I can do. The truth is that men and women are different. We're made complementary. We are made to contrast one another as well, and it's a beautiful thing, and it should be a beautiful thing. But instead of celebrating our differences and helping women play to their strengths and men play to their strengths, we are creating this, amalgamation, this mix, this idea that, we're all just the same. And so, therefore, we need 30% of women in combat roles and in Secret Service and in all of these places where it actually makes us less safe.
Maybe guys that are 6'4" that want to get into the Secret Service, maybe they should say that they feel like women, and they're gonna get hired.
Yeah, they identify as a woman, so they're part of that 30%. Why not?
Tell me about the congressional hearing. What it is all about, and why it's so scary? Because she was terrorized for a few hours, and I remember Zuckerberg being there.
Yeah.
As well, he was pale white, like the reptile.
Yeah, so when they go and they do those hearings, number one, they're a lot of them are political showmanship, unfortunately, right? We're going to have you answer to the American people.
Yes.
If she didn't want to resign, she didn't have to resign.
Yes.
Okay. Now they pressured her into that, and she did her master's bidding, and so they said, okay, you can resign now, right? And they gave that. But normally, they just fail upwards, anyway. She go get a great job somewhere else. She'll probably land somewhere within government and have a super high salary. I don't think she's going to lose her pension, which she should, right? She should lose her pension for the performance that she did as the director of the Secret Service. A president has not been shot since the 1980s. Ronald Reagan, that was the last one, 40 plus years ago.
Yes.
And here we see this happening under her watch. Again, malpractice is the most charitable way you could characterize that attempted assassination and their security performance. Malpractice, again, the most charitable. It appears, the more that we are getting information, to be actual malice or something that was intentional. And I believe that we are moving to learn that it was intentional.
How accurate is this picture, especially the bottom of it?
Oh man, I hope you're putting those visuals up because that's good.
The FBI told us a month ago about this. They were in San Francisco with the T-shirts.
Yeah, that's right. They are. I mean, it wasn't Pride Month anymore, but that's probably what they were doing in that barn.
Yeah, but those were police officers.
Yeah, so
under the shooter. Yeah,
so they. Couple of things to note on the failure. So, just basic understanding of security. Just basic understanding of events security. You have to secure the high places, right? You have to secure the spots that can be used by snipers. It was within 150 yards by all reports. It was 130. I've heard 130 something to 150 yards is how far away that building was. There's been plenty of site maps and plans that show that they essentially ignored that as a spot to secure. It was outside of their perimeter. They had, by their own reports, they had it secured from the inside, which makes no sense. It was within, 130 yards is like pretty much zero range for one of those kinds of rifles, for an AR-15 or something along those lines. which means that you don't have to adjust for bullet drop, or you don't have to do many, wind, strong gust of wind, can be a factor, but by and large, you're going to be hitting things inside a dinner plate or less at that, without very much training, without being any kind of serious sniper or rifleman. So that was an amateur shot. That was something that anybody could make with 10 minutes of lessons, right?
Really, 10 minutes?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you've never shot a rifle before, I could put you in that position, put a steel target out there, and I'd have you probably within just a few minutes hitting it 10 times out of 10 times.
And he was supposed to hit a bullseye.
Yeah, well,
the target was secured.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Trump, you've seen the videos, I'm sure. They've done some wonderful video analysis of it that just shows that once he tilted his head, the bullet just clipped his ear. There's all kinds of people that are going, ignorantly trying to. There's couple of things that are being said. Number one, that Trump, it was staged. Right? So, yeah, okay, they took this 20-year-old kid. There's a great meme of Donald Trump on the phone with this kid saying, I know you're one of the greatest shooters on the planet. That's why we brought you in for this mission.
Great shooter.
Yeah, we brought you in for this mission. We want you to just miss me and then, hit a couple people in the crowd so it makes it look, authentic, right? I mean, it's absurd. But Reid Hoffman, and one of his, he's the founder of LinkedIn, one of his political operatives and advisors behind the scenes on a call said, hey, we need to suggest that this thing was staged. So they threw out that narrative really quick, because what they did not want was that heroic Donald Trump survived a political assassination attempt. It's much better if we throw in the minds of the stupid that, well, yeah, I mean, maybe it was a ketchup packet and fake blood, and he see how he touched his face, that was so he could put on the blood, not that he just got shot in the ear and went, what the hell is that? But the failures of the Secret Service to get him off of the X is where they intend to kill you, and they intend danger to your body. So for security personnel, you have to get off the X. So they failed in being notified 30 minutes before that, they had an alert on this guy and they're noticing it, and police are saying, hey, there's a guy, a crowd, hey, there's a guy with the rifle. I mean, everybody was alerting to this guy's presence. There's this dude, everybody's pointing at him. And the moment under a effective security force, he would have been removed immediately. They would have stopped the rally. He'd have been removed. That would have gone out over the radios. They failed in not having the Secret Service and law enforcement on the same radios. There was a whole bunch of things that the Secret Service didn't come to the morning briefing with law enforcement. She quickly blamed law enforcement for things when law enforcement was like, hey, we crawled the building. We saw him. He aimed the rifle at us. We engaged him. All that, and they're like, oh yeah, it was a failure of local law enforcement. So she's done, but she magically won't suffer any consequences other than this embarrassment.
And who can do this subpoena, for instance, to ask her to get in front of Congress to answer the questions?
Oh, that comes from Congress.
Every Congress member can do that? Or do you have to get a list? Who signs the list?
There's a process. I'm not sure how the deep mechanics of the process go, but as to who writes up the congressional subpoena, it's probably their lawyers that are adjuncts to Congress.
But they got it very fast.
Oh yeah, I mean, and they have that authority and that power, and they I think got her to be there as quick as they possibly could. She stonewalled almost the entire time. She essentially, for the first portion of it, just pleaded the fifth virtually and didn't answer the questions. Yes. And then they successfully hammered her, but she would not have resigned until she was told to resign. And so there are powers that be that are influencing this whole process.
Who's her boss? DHS?
The president. Yeah, it's under DHS. Yeah, so the Secret Service operates under DHS. DHS is one of the most corrupt of all of the three-letter agencies. I mean, now it's getting, they're competing for who's the most corrupt, but DHS is about as bad as it gets.
What do you think of Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Well, I like her. I've met her in person. I've got a great Marjorie Taylor Greene story that's pretty legendary. I don't know if I should tell it on the podcast here, but
tell her and then ask her whether you can or not. And I'm going to edit it out if not.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about it, and you can ask later. But no, it has to do with her staff and her ex-husband. But I was with some guys in the Trump International Hotel. I told this story, by the way, at Versailles, France, and just a couple of tables over, this couple was sitting there, and they were watching me tell this story to some of my friends that I was in France with that were fans of politics, and I had just kind of met them, and so my buddy who brought me out there, I was telling them this story, and they're watching me. And I get up from the table. We're all finished. I've told the story. I walk past this couple, and the gal goes, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I apologize that we were listening and overhearing, but my husband works for Marjorie Taylor Greene." And he looks at me and goes, "Yeah, I'm one of her policy guys." And you told that without exaggeration, and that story is legendary around the office. But I'll tell the quick version of it. We had come back from an event, and I was with a couple of guys that were, they were getting after it a little bit, had a couple of old fashions, and we walk into what was then the Trump International Hotel in D.C., and Marjorie Taylor Greene and her staffers and her husband are sitting over having a, after hours, couple of drinks themselves. Marjorie Taylor Greene was cool sitting there, but her staff was getting after it. Her staff was having some fun, letting loose time. And my guys started yelling for Marjorie Taylor Greene to come over and get introduced and spend some time, and they were being rude, and these are just guys that were fun acquaintances of mine, not guys that I knew well, but I was kind of brokering peace. I was telling them to settle down. I went over there, talked to her, told her who I was. We exchanged some good words and conversation. I sat there for a few minutes and had a nice time. I find her to be underrated and how well she's done, especially in hearings like this and holding people to task, holding people accountable. That's why they hate her so much. Yeah. That's why they go after her. That's why they mock her. That's why they call her, redneck country bumpkin stuff. They hassle her so much. But she's a tough woman. I think she's got an outstanding voting record. I'm a huge fan. I have a couple of her staffers contact them for information. I'd love to have her on my show, but I think she's great. I really think highly of her, but that's why they go after her so hard. There's a few people in Congress that they've gone after. Madison Cawthorn, who's a very good friend of mine, is one of them. Thomas Massie is another, but they go after these guys so hard because they aren't able to be controlled. Yes. And so she's one of them. So I think super highly of her. But anyway, her staff and husband and all that stuff, they were getting after it, boozing up, ex-husband now. And I'm going to spare some of the details, but when she left and I left separately, of course, but she went off to wherever she went, and I left. It devolved into a fight inside the hotel between her staffers, husband, and my guys, to the point where they all got thrown out of the hotel by security, and our guys, I guess one of their dudes swung on one of our guys, and what
was the reason? I'm
leaving some things out. There was just words that were being exchanged back and forth, and there was some boozing and all that stuff. And me, listen, man, I was keeping a rap on it, with just my presence, and once I left and she left, it devolved, but it was pretty amusing.
So I went to her Wikipedia. This is what the Wikipedia says about MTG. Greene has promoted anti-Semitic and white supremacist views, including the white genocide conspiracy theory, QAnon, Pizzagate. She has amplified conspiracy theories that allege government involvement in mass shootings in the United States, implicate the Clinton family in murder, and suggest the attacks on 9/11 were a hoax. Before running for Congress, Greene supported calls to execute prominent Democratic Party politicians, including Clinton and Barack Obama. As a congresswoman, she equated the Democratic Party with Nazis and compared COVID-19 safety measures to the prosecution of Jews during the Holocaust, later apologizing for this comparison. What a bio to have, right?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I went on the other day, so I went to, I'm a member of the Council for National Policy, which is a great organization that helps formulate and come up with policy, and it educates politicians. It educates the right. We have great speakers when we go to the meetings. Awesome, right? And I looked up the Wikipedia page for the Council of National Policy, and it was like this secretive organization, and the list was leaked, and this pairs the wealthiest donors and the most influential conservatives in the country, all of them together, and they're conspiratorial organization that wants to have Christians controlling government and a theocracy, and so just goes on and on and on and on and on, and but that's what they do, right? Wikipedia is a leftist platform, and they want to excoriate or mock or position anybody on the right as some kind of lunatic, and they've they've done a pretty good job of doing that to Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert or a whole bunch of these people who aren't willingly a part of the establishment, because they don't do it, if you notice, to the politicians on the right that go along with the mainstream, that are part of the uniparty. Those guys escape all that kind of criticism. But anybody who steps out of line, anybody who disagrees, anybody who pushes back, they get those things written up on them.
Wasn't Lauren involved in this scandal a year ago in a strip club?
No, what you're talking about was her being in a theater with a play Beetlejuice going on a date. And they had infrared night vision cameras trained on her, and she had gotten into some words with staff, or some people around them thought she was being too loud. They hate her, right?
Yeah.
And so when you go out in public, if you're one of these people, and I've been, with folks that are vilified in politics, and I've been out where just the other night I was with Madison Cawthorn, former congressman, North Carolina, one of my very good buddies, love him to death. I mean, he and I are brothers, and some dude walks by us and makes some dumb comments as he's walking by the table. That happens all the time. So what those people do, they'll complain to management that, she's being loud, or whatever, right? And then pretty soon management comes over, arguments happen, and I don't know all the specifics around that. What I do know is they trained cameras on her in the dark that could see the audience, right? No children were around her. She's on a date with some dude, and they're getting frisky. It then went out in the news world as she was, they were groping each other in public in front of kids. Okay, complete darkness. You could, if you had just done normal cameras or the naked eye, you would not have seen them getting frisky and kissing each other and whatever, right? You wouldn't have seen that at all. But they had to make the narrative that in front of children they were doing this,
But how dare they? They just want to exist.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, you can turn the leftist argument on them, like, hey.
System error.
Yeah, exactly.
Right away.
But that's what they do.
That's their job.
Yeah, so Wikipedia, all those articles, all the things.
But don't forget to donate at least $2 for Wikipedia.
Keep
or
them
it will
going.
go down.
Yeah, I hope it goes down.
They don't have any money.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go DEI, actually. So DEI, ESG. We don't hear any more of ESG. How so? And the DEI is being thrown away by Microsoft?
Yeah, so there is a shift. There is a shift happening right now, and I'm grateful for it. We're seeing the tide turning. We're seeing people, there's this meme where, it's like the man on the bathroom thing, and this one he's raising the hand, and it's like, who else is tired of this shit? Right? So the world is starting to push back, at least, here in the West, with some of these nonsense things, and I'm grateful for it, because we're starting to see the tide turning, where people, you can only be called a racist so many times, you can only be, and then it ends up losing all meaning, and people realize that it's not the end of the world if you're being called names, whereas. Go back, I mean, I remember my reaction the first time I was called a racist, and it's like, wait a second, half my friends are black, I don't know what you're talking about. You start to like hyperventilate, go back 20 years ago, somebody called me a racist, I'd be, dude, what are you talking about? I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, here's what, and you're tripping all over yourself. Now you're like, whatever, F you, go away, because it's objectively not true.
Absurd.
Right? I mean, if you say that Kamala Harris is woefully inadequate for the job, and she failed upwards, and she slept her way to the top, admittedly, by the way, if you say that, then, oh, you're a racist because of that,
Sexist and bigot.
Yeah, everything, right? So they've done that so much that it's getting to the point where people are getting tired of it. At the corporate level, DEI and things like that, you had a bunch of, some were well-meaning, but you had like HR organizations or people like, we need to have more diversity. There was papers that came out, totally fraudulent, by the way, that suggested, and they've been proven to be fraudulent, that suggested that the more diverse a workforce is, the better the company performs, right? Written by nonsense professors, nonsense organizations that have more communist mindset, that have more the collectivism, more the central authorities, right? They want to control these things, so they put out these nonsense studies, and they get people to start going, oh, well, I guess that's what we're doing now, and then HR goes to leadership and says, hey, here's this thing, corporate America, that says that we're going to perform better. Now, it's true that having people of diverse thought contribute well to an organization, but your immutable characteristics, me and my black buddies probably share more in common and share more values and think more similar than me and some lefty, dude, in Santa Monica.
Did you say maybe?
Yeah.
You're that liberal.
For sure. No, but we have more in common because we share common values, right? And who cares of the color of our skin, right? The people that I am friends with, and I'm friends with a wide array and wide universe of even different perspectives. Like, I am not uncomfortable with people who think differently than me, and nobody should, right? Now, there are people that you're going to be more tight with because you do have more commonality, right? You do share more values. You share a deep thought process. Those are the people that end up becoming your brothers. Those are your ride or die folks, right? But we should be all able to get along and cultivate valuable friendships with people of different thought process and origins. Now, if you go communist or Satanist on me, I'm done. Okay, or
if you hate America.
Well, communists hate America. But they think that automatically some immutable characteristic, or or you being of a different gender, or you being of a different mental proclivity, right? Something is going to automatically make you more valuable, and it's going to contribute to the organization. That's just not true. It's just not true. The interesting thing is, and I've learned this in my business and other businesses that I've been a part of, if you hire based solely on merit, can that person do the job and contribute valuably to our organization, you will end up accidentally, as a byproduct, getting a lot of diversity. You will get people of all different walks of life, all different colors, all different socioeconomic backgrounds. Some people born with silver spoon in their mouth, some people scraped up from the bottom barrels of society. Oh, by the way, a lot of white people at the bottom barrels of society too. There's more white people in poverty in this country than there are any other minority, right? And so you can have people from all kinds of different walks of life contribute great to an organization because they're good at what they do. And then that company will outperform, anybody who's putting in fake DEI requirements where they're passing over people that have the skills to do the job in favor of somebody that fits a DEI profile that maybe does not have quite those same skills.
So you're a fan of BMW, right?
Yes.
Great cars. You know what I hate? I hate the
10.
hypocrisy. Because in June, every June, so the BMW and other brands as well. So let's take, for instance, BMW, because I love the brand. I love the cars. I had one. So on Instagram, they change the profile pictures in every freaking country, from Germany to the US to Mexico, and etc. But not in Saudi Arabia. And I like the comment. Did you run out of colors, BMW? Nothing changes in June in Saudi Arabia's BMW's Instagram account.
Yeah, of course, because in Saudi Arabia, they would not tolerate it, right? And they are not tolerating, right? So, BMW and all of these companies ultimately, they'll do it to us here in America because they were able to get away with it until like the Bud Light thing. Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of Porsche. Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. But yeah, no, they're going to do that as a matter of course. It's pandering, right? As long as that pandering, works well for them, in a culture. And remember, for a while, that's all that we were doing. You had to, put your rainbow flag out in your store. You had to line the downtown area with rainbow flags. It's interesting because in Boise, where I now live, they were vandalized. As soon as the city put them all up under the cover of darkness, they were all torn down and destroyed. In years past, they weren't. But what it was is everybody looked at this and said, okay, you got one day for veterans or one day for fathers or what, and we got a whole month celebrating, some kind of, sexual proclivities or sexual identities or sexual desires. We're going to do that for a month. People are just getting tired of it. People are getting tired of DEI. And so it is going away places. They're also now recognizing, because it became public, that a lot of those studies were fraudulent.
So big companies like BlackRock or State Street, Vanguard, they want to earn as much money as possible, right? As much profit as possible.
Right.
Why do they implement then DEI, which goes against the profit?
Well, but okay, so those big companies, those are the biggest, they're trillion-dollar companies.
Yes.
Right. Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, they are the central planners. They are also at the same time looking to destroy the strength of the United States. Okay, we stand in their way. So in order to, for DEI, for Pride Month, for all those sort of things, it destroys family. Okay.
Yes.
Family is the smallest form of government. Family is standing in the way of them owning us, of us being permanent renters. Everything's on a subscription, all that stuff. They envision massive amount of money to be made doing that stuff. So they'll take some short-term losses. They'll do things to disrupt for a longer-term vision of what they want to do and the control that they want to have.
But the track record that we have, for instance, what happened in Target 2 years ago, the stocks went down. The Disney's stocks went down.
Yeah.
So basically, excuse me my French, but they can go fuck themselves. Because we dictate.
Finally,
we buy
we do,
style,
and we can,
stuff.
right? But it's getting to where it's really hard. Remember, a lot of these companies were propped up by our government. Google, for instance. Google was started, by intelligence services picking, Sergey Brin and Larry Page. To come up with this model so that they could collect data on all of us and manipulate us, right? The scariest thing that Google has, and I believe it's Robert Epstein, I believe he's the one that is the researcher on this, but they can sway 10 million votes any way that they want just by how they control the search function.
Yes.
Right? They can manipulate our minds. That was very much in the interest. So they picked all of these winners. So go try to start something successful like a Google search engine now. You cannot do it. You cannot succeed without big government helping you at that level. Amazon, so many, if you look at the history of these companies, it gets to a point where we're all doing business with them because we almost can't do business anywhere else because it was pumped up. Elon Musk used that to his advantage, right? And then he got red pilled along the way. He just had a interview with Jordan Peterson where he talked about how the woke mind virus once he realized with his son going trans and losing his son to the woke mind virus and the woke cult, he realized that he needed to dedicate his life to destroying it. But he was part of that, being propped up, Tesla, SpaceX, all those sort of things, propped up by the government, propped up by these agencies. That's why they hate him. That's why they're going after him now. That's why they would like to destroy Elon. I mean, Elon is the most dangerous man on the planet right now, more so than Donald Trump.
Did you see the latest video of Patriot Barbie? I know you did a podcast with her a few days ago. So she shows the screen. She writes an email on gmail.com, and she wants to use this emoji, and she types flag, lots of flags, not the U.S. flag. Then she types America, no American flag.
Yeah. No, they manipulate us, and they
hate you.
They do hate us.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's talk Thomas Massie. So you've mentioned this name the first time you were around here. I want to say that was May 30th, the first episode we did together, right? I didn't know at the time who Thomas Massie is. So after our podcast, Tucker did a podcast with him, an interview, 2.5 hours.
Exceptional. I mean, for the audience listening to us, I think it's great to
Must watch right now.
Yeah.
And he was mentioning that AIPAC, and he was bombarding, I want to say, AIPAC for 20 to 25 minutes. After a few weeks, we got from the news that his wife passed.
Suddenly. Yeah.
And no one knows why.
Yeah, so he did come out, and because there were so many people that were like, he comes out against AIPAC and against Israel, and, boom, there you go. Now his wife is dead. They, had to get to him. And he came out and addressed that.
He did?
He did,
I
yes.
didn't see that.
Yeah. So he recently addressed it on social media, saying, look, we live on a very highly secure compound. My wife did not have any, room for anything to happen to her, or, some operatives to come out and poke her with something. And so, he's talking about it was, he didn't get into any details in terms of what it was, but apparently, according to him, and I believe him to be a truth teller, and he does have, I mean, you heard the episode. He lives way off the grid. He is the greenest of all of the congressmen, very self-sustainable, out in the middle of nowhere. So I don't really think that there was something there, but who knows?
But he didn't say the cause of her death.
I don't remember him getting into details.
She was young, 50 plus.
51, I think.
It's just the start of life.
Yeah. So, I mean, very young.
So obviously, you being the 4th degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, you know what it's like to win, and you like to win, right?
I do like to win, sure.
You like the competition. So the tides are swinging right now, right? So we see the assassination attempt failed. We see that, how's his name? Trump's case been dismissed.
Yeah, a bunch of dominoes fell.
Yes. Do you feel like winning? Do you have that feeling like maybe this time on that level you can win?
I am so pessimistic about our chances, although I see some encouraging things like that. Do not underestimate our enemy. Do not underestimate our enemy at all. What they can pull off, what they can do. I've talked about having, a surprise, major surprise every month. Normally through American politics, they would talk all the time about the October surprise. And I think maybe it was on this program. It's been on others, including my own, that I've said we're going to have a, June surprise, July surprise, August surprise, September surprise, October surprise. It's gonna continue on. You have to think about it like this, though. Our enemy, okay, the enemies of America, the enemies of liberty, the enemies of freedom, the globalists, whatever you want to call them, but the people that right now have been pulling the strings, the deep state, the intelligence services, all these folks, which is this, kind of great mishmash cabal with aligned interests, okay? They have people that know that they will, at the very least, lose their jobs under a Trump administration, at the very least. Okay, well, I got to find another one, right? At the very least. At the worst, many of these people will be losing their pensions, will be prosecuted. There are people who have done genuine treason to where it's conceivable, if we wanted to go down that path, where there could be executions for things that people have done against the interest of the United States, selling us out. And that's not an exaggeration. I mean, we have had treasonous individuals. I mean, imagine if the Secret Service, which it's looking likely that this is a real possibility, that they organize things so that someone in the deep state or they were setting it up for him to be assassinated, okay? That is very conceivable. The more that comes out, including he was flying a drone, I mean, all of these little pieces coming together, it's very likely that they tried to take President Trump out. That is treason, right? That is an executable offense, right? There's more than one of those things that these people could lose their lives if you have a very strong government come back in that really is draining the swamp or holding people accountable. So if that's the choice that they have, what will they stop at to stay in power? Nothing.
They will do everything they can.
Right.
But you can execute people here in the U.S.? A few states can, right?
Well, we haven't for many years, but treason is an executable offense.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So
we still have firing squads and all sorts. At the governmental level, I mean, and we used to, hang people for treason, and there's so many that have committed it now. At this point, you'd be running those things 24/7.
How about Mr. Alejandro? He made a treason.
Yeah, I mean, Mayorkas is an evil deep state actor. I mean, we've allowed an invasion of our country under his leadership on the border. Kamala Harris, by the way, needs to be painted with that brush as well. She was our border czar, and under her leadership, that we've never had more people flowing illegally across this border. We're importing an insurgency, and I've been mocked online for saying this, but it's the truth. We imagine right now the chaos, and I do believe that if we do win, which I pray to God that we do, if Trump is in office, when November comes, there's going to be violence if he gets elected. There will be violence on the night of his election, most likely.
And if he gets not elected as well, I want to say.
Well, we aren't as characterized by that sort of stuff. Okay, the right, which the right is generally made up of especially right now, the working class, the muscular class, the plumbers, the electricians, the Christians. People, the small businesses, the Christians, we're made up of a group of responsible human beings, right? The people that riot and the people that go and burn things and all that stuff, are the useful idiot types, the Antifa types, the people who have been who don't have a whole lot to lose. Yeah. And again, it's not the guys that have the private jets that are making these decisions behind the scenes. Those aren't the ones that are going to riot, but they have plenty of folks. I mean, we saw them during the 2020, all the BLMers, all of those folks that were running around and doing that. They weren't the conservatives. Right, the J6 was made to be a big deal because you had a small group, by comparison, of violent people getting, in many ways, provoked by the police at the time. That was they had FBI embedded in the J6 crowd, so that was ginned up. You can get a mob going on anything, but that is uncharacteristic. That is not a normal thing that you see, but I believe we're gonna see it most likely. Now, if he loses, you might have it from the other side too. You might have the left-leaning folks cause trouble, like they do at a Laker victory, right? Oh, let's burn downtown, right? You can have that either way. Mixed bag of folks just out to party because of a victory too.
But he lets in Mr. Alejandro Mayorkas. He lets in people that literally rape Americans.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment, because he has imported a potential insurgency. An insurgent force now exists here in the United States, and they've been deposited all over the country.
They're just waiting.
And these are people that the right and the conservatives want mass deportation. Trump has announced mass deportation. What is that going to look like if these folks decide they don't want to go? And you've got, 1 million of them around the country. That includes a lot of young, single, military-aged males.
1 million?
Oh,
you told me you're pessimistic. That's very optimistic. 1 million only.
Oh, well, we've, I don't want to be too hyperbolic here, but no, we've got. I'm thinking of those that might engage, but to have even 100,000 strong of people who are willing to fight against our police and sheriff's department. I mean, think how overwhelmed they were with just a few hundred in some of these cities. It doesn't take a lot to disrupt things. It doesn't take a lot.
Back then they got the order not to act.
They did, but imagine if it is thousands in a city rioting. Look at what's happening over in Europe, and they're trying to contain them.
Oh wow, I'm amazed. The thing that Macron did, he stole the election.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. That's genius.
Well,
I applaud him.
Well, and there are things that they can do along those lines here. So don't. That's the same people, that we're fighting against. It's the same people that want to see, the world that worldwide we have this movement against us.
So I was sharing on my Lithuanian account on Instagram with the people, with my fellow Lithuanians, short footage. I want to say 20 to 30 seconds of a lot of Muslims, Bangladeshi guys, I want to say, just praying in the center of London, right?
Yeah.
And one woman texted me. She said, "I live in England for 23 years. I have never seen like that." And I was like, "So you're saying this is fake?" And I sent her multiple videos like that. She's like, "No, this is not fake, but they actually do this only in their own areas." So that is only the matter of time when it's only in their areas.
Right.
And their area just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Actually, in the 20 to 30
Until
years,
the whole thing is their area.
That's it.
Yeah.
They stopped the traffic in Canada for praying on the street.
And we are not even at replacement rate population-wise. Christians are not having enough kids. The left is having, the liberals, I'll call them in this instance, are having way less children.
How can you procreate if you do this?
You can't. Yes, that's true. That's true. Yes. No, so we're getting to the point where we are being, population-wise, just outbred.
Just a matter of a few decades.
Yeah, it doesn't take long.
So let's go to the RNC 2024. Did you see that worshipping of this Hindu god?
Yeah, that was Harmeet Dillon, who was the at one point put up and put up by Turning Point, an organization that I'm part of, as the potential replacement for Ron McDaniel to lead the RNC. Mm-hmm. And I've met her several times. I tried to get her on my show and she agreed, and I forget what happened. It might have been me dropping the ball, but I like Harmeet. I think she would have been an exceptional RNC chair. I think she would have done a really, really good job. But yeah, so I've had a whole bunch of aggressive conversations with some of my Christian brothers, specifically around the idea of abortion and what's happening in our country and the softening of the RNC platform with regards to abortion. And I have said this: we are a pluralistic society, okay, and we are a pluralistic culture. We are expressly Christian culture in the sense that our founding was based on Christianity. But, we have been, as a matter of our founding fathers and the setup, tolerant of other religions and accepting of other religions to participate in our American experiment. But we lost our Christian heritage. We kind of gave it away. And so when you give it away and you're no longer really a Christian country, then that's what happens, is then you have, alternative prayers and, the religions that would never have even asked to be up there and say a prayer, now allowed to do that. And the way we fight against that or make that not to be the case is to have a revival and become a Christian nation again, and become a dominant Christian nation again, to where we kind of set the rules, we dictate, and that's not a theocracy. And of course the people who are clutching their pearls about the idea that, Christians want a theocracy or we want some kind of ecclesiocracy or something like that, which is just not true. It's not a biblical model. It's not what Christ calls us to, but we should be the ones that are in charge of the culture, the ones that set the leadership tone, and we've lost that. And we're not going to get it back by fiat or by practicing or by us putting a bunch of laws or rules in the RNC that you can only have a Christian prayer. The only way we're going to get that back is to become Christian again, to evangelize, to have a revival, to get people to love Jesus.
Yeah, but almost everyone agreed that was Jesus Christ that turned Donald Trump's head. Even Trump said that was the God hands. And at the same time, you've got the Christians that are not okay with the policies of Republican Party in regards to abortions. Maybe they turned their blind eye and they say, I'm going to vote for Trump. And at the same time at the RNC, they worship this God and they say, our true one and only God. Who is that God? What is this deity?
Yeah. So we have lost our Christian culture, and partly because we have feminized men, we have a feminized church. We are no longer a male-dominated society, a patriarchy, and it's our fault. And by the way, the more weak men are in charge, the more war and the more violence we're in store for, and it's coming.
Would you consider yourself voting for a Hindu candidate, Muslim candidate?
Well, in the respect that you are always voting for the lesser of two evils, who's on the other side of that ticket, right? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be Joe Biden or Kamala Harris who wants us to be communist?
Kamala.
Yes. Kamala. Is it someone who wants us to be enslaved? Is it somebody who wants us to go down, an occultist path with our culture? Then yes, I would vote for a Hindu. Yes, I would vote for Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm a big fan. I think he loves America. I think he's got great ideas, and I think he communicates well, and I think he could be a powerful leader. Would I vote for him? Yeah. Would I vote for Harmeet Dillon to be our RNC chair? Yeah.
What about a Muslim? For instance, on the left is progressive left candidate, mm-hmm. and on the right is a Muslim who has a tendency of maybe wanting someday implement Sharia law in the U.S.
So I think in both short and long term, okay? And this is my argument right now against people who I love, like A.J. Hurley, and I have talked about this, and other guys who their sole purpose and mission in life is to be pro-life.
Yes.
Okay. And they look at what Donald Trump said and what the RNC is saying in regards to the life issue and abortion, and they're like shaking their head and they're upset and they're saying, how can I vote for this guy? I say this: we need to have a revival, right? We need to have, and that's the long-term thing. We need to bring people to Christ. We need to get political power, right? And we need to transform our political parties towards more Christian-based political parties. But we some of those things are a long-term vision. Some of those things are, we need to rebuild. We need to have kids. We need to lead our families. We need to do things that we have not done for so long. We lost the church, right? We do not have a vibrant and effective, strong church in America anymore. We don't have. I mean, you're hearing routinely go on Twitter, and half of the pastors on Twitter are woke guys that are advocating for all kinds of sexual deviancy and arguing how the Bible doesn't really speak out against those things. It doesn't really say what it says. I mean, they're all over the place now.
Did they read the Leviticus?
Yeah, they're saying that the word homosexual didn't appear in the Bible until next. Well, of course it.
No, a man with a man.
Well, exactly. But they're saying because it doesn't say homosexual, then therefore it did not exist as a concept. You know, it's
They think
it's
we're
bizarre.
stupid?
Yes, they do think we're stupid. But yeah, so they have all of these little things that they do because they our culture has been dominated by sin, right? So that's who you've got running things. If you don't have the church, how can you have a Christian nation? If you don't have a revival, how can you have a Christian nation? So how can we win? Well, we have a formula that we have to go through. We have to get busy and raise great kids. We have to have a Christian revival. We have to win back the church. And then we can win the political parties again. You know, we're a two-party system, right?
Yeah.
We need to take over the RNC. We need to take over or abandon the RNC. I mean, Turning Point's been doing a good job creating its own muscle machine for politics, right? And it's very conservative. We need to win. We need to win and influence, and we need to be setting the tone, and we need to lead, and it needs to be led mostly by men. We've left our women and our wives to be dominant in this culture, and the men have abdicated their responsibility.
So in that regard, you have to act like China. You have to think not even in years, but in decades, but in centuries. A century plan.
Yeah, correct.
Step by step.
Correct. I mean, we have that's why I'm against term limits, by the way. And, term limits.
For presidency?
I'm against term limits for Congress and for Senate and for other political positions. I think that we could have longer term for president. I think 2 terms is a little bit short. Because our government is so unwieldy, and it is so large, and it is so run by a bureaucracy. You have to slash the bureaucracy. You have to hollow it out. You have to starve it from money. Yeah, you've got to do that to right size it. Because right now, if you have a term limit on a congressman, their staffers are the ones that really run things. Mm-hmm. Their staffers are the ones that are setting the tone and making the decisions and telling you as a congressman what to vote for and helping you to navigate. We're going to help you navigate. We're going to teach you. There's this learning curve here, right? They're the ones that are really making the ultimate decisions. So unless you have term limits on them, that congressman is gone in 4 years, gone in 8 years, gone in whatever you decide the term limit to be. They'll never be effective, and the permanent state only gets stronger.
Brother, take a look what Gavin Newsom did in 6 years. Can you imagine him running the state for 20 years?
Yeah, but really, again, at Congress level, at federal government specifically, at the federal government level specifically, it's the staffers that are in charge. They're the ones the bureaucracy is really running things, not the congressman.
Would you like to see American church get centralized? For instance, to have some kind of a pope?
No, of course not. Because again, that's not the biblical model. The church is a fellowship of Christians, right? But when I say that the church needs to become stronger, I mean Christians do. Christians as a collective group, right? You could be multiple different churches and not be governed by one entity or a pope or some magnificent leader. We just all need to return back to solid biblical principles, run our families, yes, and then we'll be voting correctly. And the Democrat Party and their party platform is incongruent with the Christian faith. You cannot be a Christian and be a Democrat. Now, there are people who, are the old style JFK folks that have I've always been, it's a traditional thing like that, but Christianity and the Democrat Party platform are incongruent. Every single piece of their platform is AntiChrist.
But the old Democratic Party
I can hear them screeching right now.
The old Democratic Party was killed on November 22nd, 63. That's it.
Correct. I mean, our country, our republic was. Unfortunately, our republic was. It's not, both political parties engaged. The bureaucracy, permanent Washington, that was kind of their genesis. That was their moment. But it's not as if the Republicans were any better.
I showed you the picture the last time. The three presidents just laughing. They're buddies, the friends, of course. Of course. So I was doing a podcast yesterday with Simone Alex, and I believe she did the same thing that you did. So you and her and now me, you were attending the Godspeak with Rob McCoy.
Yeah.
Then you moved to Idaho.
She's a friend. Yeah.
And you moved to Idaho and you help building a new church right there, right?
Correct, yeah.
And she said me almost the same thing. She said, yes, I can drive for 45 minutes to Godspeak, but that church is already great. I have to turn my church in my area to get better.
I think she's out in like Fillmore.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think highly of her. Yeah, we're friends.
Let's talk religion. So when I texted you, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks ago, I was listening to this book about the feminism, and they were talking about the Crusade. So what I know about the Crusade, those were evil times, bad times. There were several crusades when Christians went just nuts. They killed almost everybody. They robbed everybody, raped everybody.
Sure.
That's all they did, right? With the red crosses on their...
the Knights Templar.
Yes.
Yeah, total fiction.
What's your opinion on the Crusade?
Well, so the authority for that, he might... He's here in California. I forget exactly where, maybe. But Raymond Ibrahim. Raymond Ibrahim is a Coptic Christian who speaks Arabic, historian. That's his background. He's written a couple of books that are great on this very subject. And he is the man, the myth, the legend. I recommend both the books, by the way. Sword and the Scimitar is one of them, and the other one will come to mind in a second here. He goes into all of this in great detail, and what he does is because he's Arabic and can speak the language fluently and research in it, he's using contemporary sources of the time. It's only been in the West under our modern university professors that the idea of the Crusades being this terrible stain on Christianity, where we went over there and raped and pillaged for the purposes of gaining land and all those sort of things. The entirety after the essential evangelizing of the nations that the Christians did, all of these areas were Christian areas. And then you had Islam over time take over in war and absorb all of these Christian nations. I mean, all of these areas that we now know as the Middle East were largely Christian areas. Okay, and so the Crusades were actually a defensive war where, the Christians were being persecuted and overrun by the Islamic Empire, and people like Godfrey of Guion, some of these guys I'm going to get wrong because it's been a little while since I read the books, but they sold their wealth. I mean, these were guys that sacrificed everything, including their lives, to go and fight on behalf of Christians and liberate these areas again. And for a time they did, and then they ended up getting overrun. But that's the Crusades to the Holy Land in Jerusalem. Those they were taken over by invading Islamic nations and forces, and they were pushed back by Christian crusaders and men of great stature and strength, under the banner of Christianity to go and free the people. And that included, by the way, Arabs that were in those areas and other Middle East nations that were in those areas where they lived freely under the Christians after the case, and then got reabsorbed into Islamic based empires and overrun again. So the stories are great. Defenders of the West was the second book. But Sword and Scimitar, Defenders of the West. And what's interesting about that is it's not lefty professors that are telling you this. You're reading the contemporary accounts of these heroes that were written by Islamic scholars and Arab scholars of the time that were in those nations that Raymond Ibrahim lays out. I mean, but it was a complete fiction. He's a guy that it'd be amazing if you can get him on the show. He's awesome, dude.
You know the guy?
I do. I've got his contact info.
Amazing. So the whole premise was the Constantinople was being attacked by the Muslims, and the patriarch calls the Pope, I want to say, right? If he can send some defensive army just to defend the Constantinople. Then the whole premise was to go to defend the city and then to free the Jerusalem, and they did. But then they give the Jerusalem up again.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately they were defeated again, and just it was a war of attrition also as well. But they. But no, I mean, some of these are really amazing heroic accounts of some of these guys that were true Christian heroes. And because there's been this attack on the West, this attack on Christianity, a bunch of these lefty professors, and Ibrahim talks about him trying to have conversations with some of these guys and debates with them because he was, educated in this, and he had some pretty interesting interactions of these guys. That their goal, they're animated by a hatred of our country. They're animated by the hatred of the West. They are trying to undermine for the purposes of left-wing politics so much of what we've built here. I mean, all of it plays in. But yeah, it's an amazing thing to investigate.
So my home country, Lithuania, was baptized, I want to say, in 1263. And that was the result of one of the Crusades, I want to say. But do you think they were asked to get baptized, or they were either you baptize or we're just...
Well, there is not. So we do know that.
And we were pagans back then.
We do know that there have been times when we as Christian crusaders, if you want to use that term, have gone in and said, you guys are sacrificing children to your pagan gods. You guys are doing these evil things. You must stop or we're going to put you to death. Okay? And I don't think that's totally inappropriate.
Yeah.
If you
sacrifice children, bro, you got 5 minutes to decide.
Yeah.
5 seconds.
Yeah, you can adopt our way. Or the highway, bro.
Or the highway.
Yeah.
The 101.
Yeah, so for us to, I mean, there's this fiction and idea that all societies are of equal value. All cultures are of equal value. No, there are evil cultures. There are evil societies that need to be put out, right? And so to offer them the idea of, convert, come along, be part of us, or be gone, I don't think is inappropriate. Now, that is not a matter of course for Christianity, right? So Christianity's, we don't have biblical mandate throughout all of Scripture to do those sort of things, whereas Islam does, right? Islam has that, convert, pay up or die, built into the fabric of their religious foundation, right? That's not us. That's not Christians. But there are times when we have done that, again, when it is appropriate, and I don't have a problem with that.
So I'm
a colonizer too, just in case people are wondering.
If they're not offended enough, so I'm a colonizer as well. So let me read this short text. I was watching this podcast, I want to say 6 to 8 months ago. On the podcast, the guest was the father from Russia, so he's a priest, and he said this. So this is the translation, obviously. The book of Revelations describes that the Antichrist will not act alone, that he will have an assistant, a very good one. He will take control of absolutely the whole world. It is the assistant who will make sure that everyone has an image of the Antichrist, and that whoever does not have his image or seal will be unable to buy or to sell. In general, there will be a complete isolation. It is then described that when Jesus comes, he destroys the Antichrist, but absolutely nothing is said about how or whether he destroyed this assistant at all. I had an interesting thought, he says. The Antichrist's assistant is not human. What if the assistant of that Antichrist, thanks to whom everything will be taken under control, is artificial intelligence? And this puzzled me so much because with the help of an AI, he can take over everything. He can take everything under control. And so everyone already is playing with the AI. I have delved into this topic a lot. There is also a description of this assistant that he will have 2 lamb horns. And one man that I was discussing this with, he said maybe these 2 horns are just a binary code.
Interesting. I actually love that because I have said that kind of in throwaway comments about what if the Antichrist is artificial intelligence.
Really?
Yeah, I've actually talked about that recently. Now, I'm not a biblical scholar, and I want to stay far away from pretending that I am. I'm a preacher's kid, which is kind of the worst of both worlds. But I am more curious than I ever have been about end times theology, eschatology, because of the things that we're seeing, right? And so I've been wrestling with some of these ideas, reading through some of these scriptures with a new intensity and a new curiosity that I never had before. And I did not have it before because I do have at my core this idea that if you are living according to the precepts of Christianity, if you are loving Jesus, some of these in-house debates that are fascinating, if you are a scholar or you're interested in some of these things, they might be fun, but they don't matter for how you should live each and every day out. Now, there's Christians that will argue that if you believe in certain end times theology, you will ignore the things that you're supposed to be doing here on this earth. You will abandon some of your duties, and so I understand those arguments. But I believe that if we are living correctly, when the end times come, we will be able to look through that book as like things are happening and go, oh, I'm recognizing this. You'll see the signs of the time. So I don't get into too many in-house debates because it's also something that Christians can come to blows over, and I think it's a waste of time, especially when we need to be having a revival and we need to be bringing people to Jesus like never before.
Amen.
I don't think it's that fruitful to get super intense on those things. But because I've been curious, I've been suggesting, I love science fiction, right? And I've been for years talking about the singularity when artificial intelligence surpasses our own. And I think we're pretty much there, right? And if we're not all the way there, we will be there soon. So it's not inconceivable that artificial intelligence plays a role in the end times, or is the Antichrist, or something like that. Because when you think of the mark of the beast and what's happening in buying and selling, the social credit system, social credit score, the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, all of those sort of things that we're being set up for.
Vaccine passport.
Vaccine passport, yeah. So all of those things, that's all part of that social credit score system. They can use all kinds of things to prevent you and I from being able to engage in transactions and participate in commerce and participate in all of the things that we're able to as free citizens right now.
There are multiple Amazon stores right here in LA where you just
with your palm.
Put the palm.
Yeah.
That's the exact thing, because the mark of the beast either on the forehead, in the head, or on your hand.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think you shopping at Amazon using your palm means that you've taken the mark of the beast or anything like that. Yeah. But if all of a sudden that's our only choice, and they're putting, they're requiring you to do that, to engage, then that is concerning. I avoid all that stuff because I just think that it offends me that we're doing that, and I like my privacy, and I don't think that we should be voluntarily participating in this stuff out of convenience.
I'm offended.
Yeah,
just like a leftist. Why not?
Yeah,
I have a right to.
Yeah, no, I think we shouldn't be going down these paths, so I just avoid it. You won't see me, getting my palm scanned.
So my concern is this. We've got November. If on November 5th, that's Tuesday or Wednesday when we get the results, official results.
Well, in the past, that was the case. But remember, now we have voting month. Things might go on for weeks, and I think it will go on for weeks.
So in November, once we get the results, if you Americans elect Trump, I believe the whole Revelation book is being pushed aside at least for 4 years minimum. Mm-hmm. But if Trump does not get elected or he gets killed in that period of time, I believe the book of Revelation's just right here in front of us, and which we have to read it.
So they're not done trying to assassinate him. They're not done trying to defeat him.
Yes.
And again, when I asked earlier what lengths would they go to, they'll go to any lengths possible. That's why we're going to have between now and then. I mean, it's hard to do normal business and normal transactions, knowing what can happen over the next few months. I mean, it's really hard to concentrate on the mundane things in life right now.
But isn't it scary, especially right now? So, before that tweet of Biden's, the country, the wealthiest, the most powerful country in the world, did not have a president for a few days. And I read this comment on X. If I was from Taiwan, I would shit my pants right now. Like literally. No one's there. So maybe I should, Taiwan, come over here. You don't want it? How about now?
Yeah.
That's great. That's scary. The country does not have a president.
Well, he wasn't running things anyway, so I don't.
But at least he was the face. The president of the Ukraine. The vice president Trump. Oh man, missed it twice.
Yeah.
But at least that was a face, and he was missing for 5 days. A lot of people suggested he was dead.
Oh yeah, I did. I thought that was a high likelihood. Yeah, and it still might be. Because, it could have been old tapes, I don't know what he's going to do in addressing the nation. It'll be interesting.
Do you think they have twins, presidents? They have to.
Okay, so there is, for decades, there have been some really amazing ability that our intelligence services were able to, create clones of people, like mask technology, things like that. That's not that far-fetched, right? Mm-hmm. Whether they were using them to, here's the president over here, now he's over here, kind of stuff, and playing those games with powerful figures. Who knows? But we've got all kinds of technology to do things to make a person look like, he's the president. Are they doing that? I don't know. I can't say for sure. I try to stay at least somewhat far away from the more extreme theories, but with all of the extreme theories that have come true and all the things that we've seen, is it possible that they trot out in a few days a decrepit clone of him to tell the American people that I'm blessing Kamala, I'm going to do my duty to the end of the year, and yeah. But
it doesn't have to be a clone, just a guy with a great makeup. Look at Hollywood; they were doing
great makeups
for decades.
It doesn't need to actually be a clone.
Yeah.
You could have a look-alike very easily. Stand up there and it would pass for most people, and
not much acting, like mumble. Oh, that's Biden. That's president. Your Honor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure you've seen what they've been doing with AI in just vocal stuff. They've been able to just take people on recording and like right now, and I think we need laws against it, but there's a lot of advertisements on YouTube that are Joe Rogan's voice, and it's not Joe Rogan giving the the endorsement of a particular product. They don't say it's Joe Rogan, but it's Joe Rogan's voice, right? Mm-hmm. And you just think, oh wow, this super hot military flashlight, I better buy one of those because Joe Rogan, and that stuff should be illegal.
I'm generally afraid of this type of AI with the deep fakes, because there are a lot of people that would definitely believe in something. For instance, doing a deep fake video of Putin saying, I declare war to the U.S.
Or just think about how to ruin people using, fake sex tapes and, all kinds of things like that can be put out there. Oh, look at what this person behaved, oh my gosh, here he is with a little kid. And, and you're getting to the point where it's almost indetectable. It is close enough to be indetectable. There's been some stories recently where AI was used. There was a classroom, I think it was a coach or a teacher, a principal of an organization, that it was one of his coaches that arranged for an AI tape of him going on a racist tirade against some students and some fellow employees of the school, and it turned out to be fake. And the FBI was able to do it, but for quite some time, this guy was on the hot seat, and they were firing him, and he was some racist teacher that came out. And the truth is, it was all AI generated.
That's scary.
Yeah.
What do you think of Elon Musk? Do you believe him?
I believe that he is one of the greatest human beings on the planet right now, and an ally of freedom and an ally of free speech and all those things. And I think he is anointed by God. This is not to say I believe he's a Christian or anything like that, although I think in the Tucker or the Peterson interview, he made indication of some religious background and how he was raised and all that stuff. I'm not saying he's a Christian, but there are leaders that are appointed for a time by God that are blessed and are used and appointed, again is the word that Scripture uses, appointed by God for a time. Mm-hmm. I believe that Elon Musk is that, and without having the freedom, even as limited as it still is on Twitter, the X now, I believe without that, we'd be so much more controllable. We'd be in the dark. We'd be extra censored. I mean, it's that competition from that platform has opened up some of the other platforms to where they have not been suppressing us in quite the same way.
But he's got so much power. Let's take Tesla, for instance. I own a Tesla, right? Mm-hmm. If he wants, he can block my car.
Yeah, well, praise God, he seems to be one that doesn't want to do that sort of stuff. But yeah, he can. He
can be a black swan, potentially.
He could. Yeah, I don't know that he is.
With the Neuralink,
I think he's a real believer in freedom. I think he's a real believer in free speech. I think I think he's definitely animated, like we talked about earlier, by his son getting caught up in the woke mind virus. He does not bluff, and I believe he's the guy that's said that he's going to destroy the woke mind virus because of it destroying his son.
Do you think him going on, I want to say last year on the Halloween with the costume of Satan with the star on Satan's head, it just was a joke?
There are people who are provocative. There are people who I believe are genuine occultists. I don't see him as an occultist. Maybe he is. Maybe we'll find out that he's, the AntiChrist. But I don't think that that's the case.
What do you think that is if we take top 100, top 50 most influential people on planet Earth, you can find at least one Christian?
Why can't you?
Why can't you?
Well, that's if we don't believe some of the reports behind the scenes that Trump is a believer now. Yeah. And I have people that I know who are close to him and his family, and he's a mixed bag, and he's a sinner, and all of those sort of things, and he's got his issues and all that, like we all do. But there's many credible people who have said that he has given his life to Christ and Christianity.
Now or years before?
Well, a few years ago. Okay. Is where I had been told, and there were some things that you saw in some of his
rallies,
recent behaviors in past that seemed to indicate that might be the case. I don't know his heart.
Yeah, but what about others?
I can't say for sure.
Zuckerberg, Bezos, The Rock, all those celebrities.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is that who's kind of running this world, and who gives the energy to the successful people in this world. I don't think it's normally Christ that we are in a fallen world, and the people that are being propped up in this fallen world aren't Christians.
But it's so tempting. If you go to the other side, you gotta get those millions. You gotta get the women.
Yeah, money, and I think that's cars. A lot of it. I think that's a lot of it. I mean, there's been some really credible people that have, come out and talked about what, the path that they could have chosen. Mm-hmm. And there's, people that have outed, like Russell Brand, some of the stuff that they saw behind the scenes that, he ended up going in a different direction, and now he's, declares himself to be a Christian. Mm-hmm. So I think there are people that have, turned away from that path of power that have given us a lot of information on what it looks like.
Mark Wahlberg, Hulk Hogan, Chris Pratt, I want to say, right? He praised Jesus once.
Yeah.
Do you think Matthew 24 is going to be the thing in the upcoming years?
Well, for the audience, let's
Matthew 24.
Let's lay it out.
Christians are getting just prosecuted.
Yeah,
like the 12 apostles.
I say it on my show all the time that the prosecution and persecution is coming. But I mean, if you want to, for those that are listening and they don't have to look it up, do you want to pull it
That's
up?
A lot to read.
Okay,
just read it. It's scary.
Yeah, it is. But I think it's inevitable. I think it's part of what what's been promised in times. It's are we there? I don't know. But we have had a unique respite from persecution and prosecution as Christians here in America because we were expressly founded upon Christian principles. That's why we enjoyed so much prosperity, so much freedom, so much liberty, and we got used to this. And America was this shining city on a hill because of all those things, and then now we're in a situation where we've abandoned that. We are a nation under judgment, and so that prosecution and persecution, that protection that God gave us, is been removed.
Do you think it's going to happen like the witch hunt 1,000 years ago? But because the left likes to gaslight, mm-hmm. so that's what they can do. They can gaslight us.
Oh well, they've been saying what they're going to do to us. If you've listened to them talking about what's going to happen under the Trump administration, they tell you what they're going to do. But listen to them right now as they're talking about what's going to happen under a Trump administration. That's what they're going to do to us. They are talking about how they're going to be unsafe. They're going to be hunted down. They're talking about it right now that's what's going to happen under Trump. It's going to happen under them.
But I've been going to this Godspeak church for 4 to 5 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
The man that I see there with the trucks, with the dozens of flags on one car,
yeah,
they will never get them. Those people, they will die on the
mm-hmm.
cross.
Yeah, no, we've got a lot of people, concentrations like at Godspeak and other churches, or Idaho. We've got all those guys in Idaho. They're driving down the street everywhere there. No, you've got. I mean, that's part of the reason why I am in Idaho. The thing that will save us is resilient communities. I just joined the board of the Center for Security Policy, Frank Gaffney's group. It was formed in the 1980s, and it was for the think tank that was exposing the weaknesses of the United States, like showing where we needed to be concerned. Things like our grid, right? Mm-hmm. What happens if our grid goes down? What does that look like? How can we strengthen our grid? How can we, fortify these areas? The threat of Islam, the threat of Antifa. They have all of these different areas that they specialize in that is laying those things out. And one of their major focuses or campaigns over the coming next few years is building resilient communities, because that's how, if we are going to be persecuted and prosecuted, you have to be in towns and places where it's hard for the federal government to come after you. It's hard for the local government and the state government to come after you because you and your neighbors are so strong. But you and your neighbors don't require as much outside help. You have within your community, you have the ability to provide for yourself and feed yourself, and you have the ability to defend yourself. And I think that's what will be needed, and that's what we will do, and how we will survive in coming times of great persecution and prosecution.
But that's even more division. What did you feel after Trump's assassination attempt? Did you feel that at that moment, because I was in LA, 2 hours after I went to Ralph's grocery store, everything was more quiet than the usual. Everything was like toned down a little bit. Did you feel the same thing in Idaho?
I was in Nashville. I was in Nashville in a bar as a part of the Council for National Policy's meeting. We had decided to stay an extra day, and we were listening to some 90s country music, great band, sitting there. I was having a skinny margarita and enjoying the moment, and then my phone started to blow up, and I started to get all of these texts that there was an attempt on his life, and it was just like wild to witness. And I was so angry in a way that I didn't anticipate, because I've been saying that this was going to happen. I've been fully expecting, and I don't believe it's going to be the last attempt. I think that this is the world that we're in now. So, but I was surprised at how despairing I felt and how angry I felt at the same time that they've done this to this nation.
Yeah, but you've heard the news that was unsuccessful, right? Mm-hmm. Can you imagine watching
in the
it
first
live?
In the first few minutes, the texts that I received were just that he was shot.
Oh, I got you.
Okay, so I got real early fast, like Trump was just shot, kind of stuff. Just my phone, brr, 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 just it hit. And then I started getting the pictures Charlie Kirk sent out to a little text thread that I'm on with a couple other guys. Charlie sent us those first two pictures. His bloody face, and then the sort of that victory fight picture, and I just thought it's on.
Because for me, you were the first one that texted me, and when I got your photos, I understood right away that he's alive, and I was like, wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Because if I was watching the live on CNN, for instance, I can only imagine what would I feel. Like the shots, he goes down, 20 seconds after he gets up. So for those 20 seconds, it's like,
what
are we in a
happened?
civil war already?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would have been really bad had they been successful.
What do you think of the idea of getting out of big cities on November 5th, just for a day or two?
Look, I personally believe you should be out of the big cities if you can. Do it for your family. If you can live elsewhere, don't be in the heart of a city. Period. Right now, because I think we are, no matter what, going into increasing crises in our cities, and I think civil unrest is going to be more part of our future, not less part of our future. There's anarcho-tyranny is the chaos and things that they are promoting right now with the way that they run our laws, the way that they prosecute our criminals. All of that stuff is going to get worse between now and the end of the year, for sure. The chaos that could come with a Donald Trump presidency again will be the left, pushing back and trying to continue to destabilize. And I think we're going to have an amazing few months if he does get elected. I think they do not want him to be sworn in. It is going to be it's going to be the craziest time we've ever seen.
But for instance, if he gets elected and then he gets killed prior to getting sworn in, so J.D. Vance becomes the president.
Yes.
So they will do everything they can just for him to lose.
They have to. This is death to them is what they feel. So again, what lengths would you go to for just survival? I mean, these are people that are okay with murdering people. These are people that have declared that, it's too bad the shooter didn't have better aim. These folks, what won't they do?
But did this change? Like, Republicans hate, I wouldn't say so. the left hates the right. That started in 2016 once Trump got elected.
No, the Overton window moved for many years. Like we talked about in the 1960s. I mean, this isn't just left right. Kind of keeping each other in balance.
You didn't hate each other.
Correct.
Now you hate each other.
Correct, because it's gotten to be more extreme now. When people ask, like, yeah, but the far right too. I always ask, okay, well, describe to me the far right, because I can tell you what the far left is. I can tell you what they're doing. We can point to things that they're promoting, and most of the time, I can't get that from somebody who's neutral or on the left who think that the far right are just as bad. I ask them to provide me some concrete examples or what they really think, and
I'd say these are neocons. They just want a lot of wars abroad, but not in the country.
Yeah, well, and those are that uniparty type, but the neocons I wouldn't consider far right. Okay, they're not the ones that people are talking about when they say, well, the far right is just as bad. Now, I think those guys are just as bad because they're warmongers. They're interfering on a global scale. They're fleecing us of our money. They're growing government. They're doing all the things that the left is also doing in a different way. Yeah, that's right. It's that horseshoe. But they're not who the left is talking about. The left, is talking about Handmaid's Tale type
mythical
stuff.
Creatures.
Correct.
They don't exist.
Correct. Yeah. So I have yet to find somebody that comes up with good talking points like, well, the far right, this is what they, and they'll come up with like this Project 2025 stuff, and they are going to forbid women from having contraceptives, or just all these sort of nonsense that they're doing. They want this nation to be run by a Christian king. Okay, there are people that talk about having a Christian nationalist, and there's people, but those people are super fringy. The left, the people that are talking about communism stuff, they're implementing it into law as we speak. They're putting here in California, what is it? AB 1955. Yeah, where they're legalizing the kidnapping of your children.
That should be 1984.
Yes, that's right.
Naming.
Yeah.
So who do you think is the most vicious right now from the left? Hillary, Kamala, Biden, Michelle? Gavin
is wicked and evil, but he can't govern that well, and so so he's wrecked California. I think he's got so many things that's wrong with him. Kamala is dangerous, and I think she's the most dangerous because she's been largely ineffective and not been called to do anything important. Like Newsom, we've got a whole bunch of things on him. We've got things that Kamala has said in the past. We've got things that she's done. That we know that she's not qualified, but Gavin Newsom has been in power, and he's been he's a snake of a politician. He's very talented. I mean, that guy is so good on the stump, and when he's debating people, I mean, he's dangerous in that respect because he can oh, come on, you're gonna really say that to me? These people just want to exist. I mean, he's so good at being that aggressive, dismissive. He sounds like he wins every argument and debate, because he's just so slick.
What about Hillary? She's evil?
She's evil through and through. I mean, look, you're talking about, with all these people, you're talking about varying degrees of evil. I mean,
that's why I asked,
they're all a bag
the top
of
Satan.
Yeah. But I don't think of it in top Satan, although Hillary Clinton probably has the highest body count of them all. Again, she's raped and pillaged Haiti. She's a human trafficker. I mean, that woman has done probably the most evil over the span of her entire political career. And so I think she's terrible in that sense. But what we're talking about now is going forward, who's going to be the most dangerous and who's going to drive us more leftward? Who should we be afraid of? And I do think Kamala is that. I also am slightly excited to be in a contest against her because I do think that she can be defeated because she is not a likable person.
I can wait for the debates, but they won't, right? She was supposed to debate J.D. Vance.
Yeah, and that would have been great. J.D. would have crushed her. I think people are talking about how Trump is going to go up against her, and she's great, she's amazing, she's the smartest woman that's ever walked the face of the planet, she's going to just annihilate Trump. I mean, you're seeing those on Twitter and stuff, and she is just so bad. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, you've probably seen the clips of Tulsi Gabbard tearing her to pieces. She has so many things that are on her record from her past, and she was never very successful. And she, in her race for AG in solid blue California, she barely won. And this was like a solid Democrat area, and she barely eked it out because she's just not good as a politician. In that sense, she's great behind the scenes, like, again, failing upwards, navigating through, sleeping with the right people. She's talented operative that way.
She's great at laughing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I can watch her laugh for hours. Let's take this last question like this. We have a time machine.
Okay.
We have a possibility to go back and change the history.
Yeah.
What would you change?
Ooh, that is a good question. You like to ask those super provocative. Yeah, I mean, man, I would go back, if I could go back all the way to our founding and clarify a few things, to just take certain arguments away. There's an attraction to that, like, with the Second Amendment, clarify a couple of words so that the left can't try to weasel their way out of the fact that we get to defend ourselves. There's certain things within the Constitution that I would, the things that they never anticipated, that if you could use a time machine, maybe you can set some things up a little bit better, define, birthright citizenship or, immigration.
Define a woman.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. I think there's things that you could do with our immigration laws back, when Ted Kennedy neutered it, and made immigration should be for the country, to strengthen the country, yes. Right? To strengthen the host nation that are accepting immigrants, and we got away from that and made it about the immigrant. Okay.
Well, they strengthen the country, but not their country. But
yeah.
By coming to your country, they strengthen your country only.
Yeah. So they needed to, I think, better clarify the purposes of some of those things. I don't think our founding fathers could have identified how stupid we've become. I think they imagined, like, I would probably change the laws on voting and who could vote. I want you to have a stake in society for you to vote, and whether you would do that based on property ownership or or tax paying status. But I don't think that half the country that doesn't pay any taxes or actually takes services from the government, and so their net contribution is zero or less.
Because they're biased. Of course, they're going to vote for the ones that gave them.
Yeah, I mean, I forget the founding father or great thinker that said, democracy only lasts until people realize they can vote themselves money from the Treasury. I think there's a few little holes that we could have plugged up. But the truth is without a moral people, and I think it was Adams that said that it's wholly inadequate. Our government is wholly inadequate, outside of a moral people. And I butchered that quote because we've been in here for a long time, but we need to return to morality, and we lost that. So I think if I were to spend time thinking about what would I go back and change, it would be some of those things that I would think would be seminal to keeping us on the track that we've been on longer.
Just imagine, we take the time machine, we go 6,000 years back. The moment that Eve takes an apple, and we don't let her take that apple, nothing happens. Jesus does not happen.
I like that life is interesting, and I don't know that I'd want to change that. God in His magnificence, is working all those things out for our good. And, Eve and her failure, and Adam and his, I think, is part of this master plan that's, creates a life rich and challenging for us all.
Especially now, if we stay alive. What a time to live. just
Yeah.
to document everything, to tell the stories to our
Yeah, you're not kidding, man. I mean, I'm
kids.
excited to live in this time. I mean, you know, what is it? May you be cursed to, a man is cursed who lives in uninteresting times. You know, I'm butchering all kinds of quotes today, but I think that's true. You know, I'd rather live in this time of you know, turmoil. I mean, look, I don't care about me. I don't want my family to suffer. I don't want my grandkids to be, you know, born in a, you know, totally terrible time. But at the same moment, you got to think about some of the greatest human beings were born in times of great turmoil. So for those people that are like, I don't think I want to bring someone into this world. No, I think you need to. And I think not fulfilling your command from God to be fruitful and multiply is also how we got here, and how, you know, Islam will take over and all of these other things that are terrible. We need to get busy. We need to get married. We need to have a bunch of kids, and, you know, and work hard and train them up in the way they should go. Oh yeah, that's fun. You know, come on,
love the process.
Get after it. Yeah.
So Bryce, that was the trilogy. I don't think that's the last time we see each other.
Well, we're friends now at this point, man. We spent a lot of time together.
Especially now, I mean, in the times that we live in, I want to say in a month, that will be plenty of new questions, plenty of new topics to discuss. That was amazing.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you. And yeah, I think we're going to have lots of surprises, and we're going to have lots of things that you know, are going to get us shaking our heads, and, you know, get you texting me, did you see that? Yeah, it's going to be wild. So thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it.